Thanks for taking time out of your day to come hear my story. Honored to be able to share. And as Chuck mentioned, I've been in real estate my whole life and done a lot of stuff in real estate, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. So I'm here to have the privilege to stand in front of mostly strangers and tell you how many times I screwed up and all the ways I've kind of failed in life. So it'll be fun. But the neat part is I also get to share with you how God has taken a lot of those failures and those things that I've done or things that have been done to me and turned them into an amazing story. And so it's a story of grace, and it's a turnaround story and a comeback story, and it's my story. So I'm happy to be able to share it with you. And my only hope is that maybe one thing from my story, my life, could encourage or inspire a changed behavior in your life. So that's the only selfish intent out of this, is that I hope it can help you in some area of your life, or it can touch you, or it can get you going in the right direction in something you're struggling with, or even give you the encouragement or motivation to be able to talk to somebody you're close to who could relate to something. So I'm going to start this timer. I'm going to probably try to read most of this because there's some stuff I don't want to leave out, and I've lived a lot of life in 44 years, so I had to be selective in what stories I could share and which ones not to. But I want to get some points across. So I'm pretty bold. I'm an open book, and I'm going to be raw and uncut in what I share, but I think that's the only way to do it. And I'm just going to be real about it. So let's get right into it. Fail forward, fail faster. Those are two things that's a motto that I live by. I fly by the seat of my pants a lot, and you just got to try things, and you got to figure life out, and you got to take the cards that were dealt to you, but hopefully you learn from some of it, right? If you're not out failing, you're not really out learning or growing. So I've born and raised Grand Rapids, 44 years, my entire life here, specifically in the Easttown neighborhood, which that was a rough neighborhood back in the early 80s. And that's part of my story. That neighborhood had an impact on me. So, for the most part, actually, I'm going to back up real quick. Before I go into my story and some of the crap that's happened to me and some of the mistakes I've made, I stand here today, and I'm a lucky man. I've been married for 18 years. I have a beautiful wife. I have 3 healthy children. I have a good job. I've earned a good income. I think it's important to mention that. I'm enjoying life, and I'm blessed to be where I'm at. But it didn't always go that way, right? And that's where I'm going to share some of that and how I got to this point. For the most part, I was born into a loving family, so I thought, and a Christian family. Went to church. I went to Ogle Christian School. We prayed before dinners. For all I knew, I was a Christian, and I believed in God because that's the family that I was born into. So I don't think I would really know anything else from that. So I'm the middle of 3 boys, and life, as much as I knew as a little kid, was pretty good. It seemed okay. I have a few fond memories of my younger years, but as I sat down to kind of do this self-reflection of this story, I realized there's a lot of fuzzy memories too, right? Like I don't have a lot of details and timelines. And so that was interesting. That was hard to work through, some of it being a little bit foggy, but some of the normal parts, I grew up in Easttown. Like I said, I went to church, went to a good school. We had family dinners. I played sports at Martin Luther King Park through I think that was the Grand Rapids City Rec League. A lot different back then. I kind of remember, I think you had practice before your game on Saturday, and that was it, right? Now we're spending thousands of dollars going all around the country. Youth sports is a racket. It's a multi-billion-dollar business that preys on parents, and that's another seminar, but I'm just gonna throw that out there. Unfortunately, my home life was also filled with a lot of arguing, a lot of anger, a lot of yelling, a lot of physical abuse. My parents fought with each other a lot. Because of their parental immaturity and personal issues, us kids were always caught in the crossfire. We became unintentional targets for their anger. At some point I realized that maybe my family was not so normal. Seemed like a functional, dysfunctional family all at the same time. And sit down for dinner and say a prayer before dinner, but then listen to my parents fight at dinner and argue, right? One of my memories of going to church was how we always fought on the way to church. And we're yelling and screaming in the car. So that's some of the stuff where it was like functional, dysfunctional. And I think something in me picked up at some point that maybe my family, my upbringing, my environment, my parents weren't practicing what they preach, or weren't living the life that maybe I was being taught at school or at church. So one of the only good memories, I would say, or not, it's not a good memory at all, but one of the only memories of where I remember both of my parents being in the room and being happy and smiling. It's also one of my hardest memories to share. So I don't know how old I was, but elementary school, probably 8, 9 years old maybe. I remember I was playing with my mom and dad in the living room, and we were play wrestling. And it was fun. I remember both of them smiling, we were laughing, and then the room went black. I guess I inadvertently kneed my dad in the balls, and he slapped me. He slapped me so hard that I passed out. I had a black and blue face, half my face, for a few days, and when I went back to school, I was scripted on that I got hit with a soccer ball, and that's what I had to tell people. So with stuff like that, where I thought, man, this isn't normal, right? Love my parents, love my family, but that's not fun, right? That scares you as a little kid, and you don't really know what's going on and why that happens. I did learn later on that my grandfather, Ogle, was pretty much a raging alcoholic, and he took out the brunt of his abuse on my dad, who was the oldest of 6 or 7 kids in New Jersey. And that does not excuse my dad's actions, but what it helped me realize is generational curses are real. My grandpa had the Ogle temper. My dad had the Ogle temper. I've seen the Ogle temper in my uncles. Me and my brothers have the Ogle temper. So that was a huge realization, is that it's a generational curse. It was something that was passed down. And to realize that is the first step in being able to hopefully be the one to break that curse in my family and in my bloodline. There's other generational curses too. I think in part of my story, you'll see it probably had the curse of poverty over my family, curse of rejection. You're rejected as a kid when you're not close with your dad or your parents. There's just a lot that can come with that. And I've talked to too many men to know that a lot of guys struggle with rejection, whether they know it or not. If your dad never said he was proud of you, or you didn't even have a father figure in your life, that's something that can be carried with you for a long time. But it's something that you can learn about. Maybe you learn about it today. And it's something that you can break, and that you should break, so it's not passed on maybe to your kids. I always like to try to point out the good and think of the good. Some of my life was normal. I had great teachers. I had good friends at school, along with, attending church or Sunday school, youth group at church. I had some sense of normalcy in my life, and that was good. Some of the stuff I remembered. But then another big change happened in my life. I think I was 11 and found out that my parents were getting separated, which then led to a divorce. I think it was in 6th grade maybe. Looking back, that was another just traumatic situation for me. It fit the theme of my neighborhood though. I think there's a lot of broken families in my neighborhood. And with my neighborhood friends, it was normal. With my friends at school or church, it wasn't normal. And one memory I have is our school started a support group for divorced kids. That was awesome, right? You get to leave class, get singled out, and go have lunch with like 4 other kids and talk about how your life sucks or your family home sucks. I'm sure they had good intentions, but that wasn't fun. Being an 11, 12-year-old, having to maybe face a little bit of embarrassment with that. Divorce was an nasty one. Most of the time spent with my parents, they were trashing each other, trying to get information out of us kids about each other. I remember a few of the visitation transfers the police had to be called. Just more stuff to try to take in as a kid of what's going on. Why is this happening? At some point the visitation stopped. My dad disappeared for a few years. I later found out he moved to his brother's house in Louisiana. I'm not quite sure how long he was there, but that left us with a single mom supporting us. And, not having a positive father figure in my life or teaching me things about life or how to do things or what not to do. I want to mention my mom's dad, my Grandpa Dykstra, amazing person. He tried his best and he helped a lot, so I did have a positive father figure in him, and that is worth mentioning, and I'm going to tell you why that's important at the end of this. My mom tried her best, raising 3 boys in Easttown, working 2 to 3 jobs to support us, but she had some issues too. I unfortunately learned that she way over-punished us also. I'm going to be nice in saying that, but some of the physical abuse disguised as punishment was tough, and that stuff went on for me and my brothers. But I found freedom and not much accountability being raised by a single mom. I basically was a latchkey kid, and I lived in a really rough neighborhood. I was exposed to a lot of stuff, some good, mainly bad, and in all honesty, I was a little Easttown delinquent. I mean, I ran around that neighborhood vandalizing things, stealing candy from the gas station. We used to dare each other who could run into Baskin Robbins on Wealthy Street and say the most curse words before they kicked us out, right? Like just stupid stuff. But I was just a little Easttown delinquent. There's no other way to say it. But I watched a lot of bad stuff. I remember playing basketball with my neighborhood friends, and we'd have to stop the game when a car pulled up so that they could deal drugs. I've watched people get mugged, beat up. I remember walking home from the bus stop from school and witnessed a gang beating, and it was weird. You'd see stuff like that, it wasn't right, but somehow because I was a neighborhood kid, like you're protected. Like they knew we lived, so nothing really happened to me. But remember, my brother did get jumped on his paper route. They stole his money. And actually not in my neighborhood. I was mugged. I was robbed at gunpoint for my bicycle once downtown. So just not good experiences living in that neighborhood and as a kid. My mom was gone a lot, working. She'd spend some weekends at her boyfriend's house and leave us home alone. And we were young, 3 boys trying to figure it out. One of those weekends, I don't know if I was 12, 13, it was like midnight, someone was knocking on the door. I didn't want to get it, not in that neighborhood. Not answering the door at midnight because my mom wasn't home. For some reason, my older brother didn't want to get it, so I did end up going down. It was the police. My mom was in a really bad car accident and almost died or was close to death. And so I called my grandpa to come get me and went and visited her at the hospital. And I remember events like this, but I don't remember, who took care of us, how long was she gone, how long was she in the hospital. Just more stuff that I was exposed to as a kid growing up. So even though I enjoyed the freedom as a kid, I think I knew I was not really living right and behaving and was exposed to a lot of stuff. So had it been 7th or 8th grade when I looked at my first porno magazine in the alley in Easttown with the neighborhood kids. And then I think it was a couple weeks later when we snuck into one of the kids' mom's room and watched her porno videos. Luckily, that was like a one and done experience for me. I didn't even know what that stuff was. I think inside I knew it wasn't right, but didn't know what it was. But that was my first exposure to pornography. I remember buying beer when I was in 8th grade. Some of this stuff, guys, was fun, but I don't want to say that it was fun. There used to be a nightclub in Easttown called Shout. The bartender or the bouncer knew me as the little punk Easttown kid. He let me go in the club on Friday nights when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. So some of it, I think I was having fun. Looking back, probably not good exposure for me. So just my moral compass was off. I think I knew deep inside that this stuff was not right, but I had no one telling me right from wrong. I was a bad kid, probably acting out from my upbringing, surroundings, my parents' divorce. This carried over to school, and I got in a lot of trouble at school. I think I realized when you're poor and struggling and life is hard, you really don't have time to have goals and dreams. When you're in survival mode, you don't have time to daydream. And that's hard because then you don't think about, next week. You think about today, tomorrow. That's about it. I remember not wanting to become super old or live life past a certain age. I couldn't fathom a long life like this. And I hope and pray today that I didn't speak that curse over my life. I ask God daily to grant me a long life, as I know I'm very close to that age that I never wanted to live past. I do remember that I had good families around me who took me in. One family would take me camping for the whole summer. That's where I learned how to fish. So I have some good stuff like that. My church helped pay for me to go to Grand Rapids Christian High School, which was great. Looking back, that was a huge blessing. And again, my grandfather helped out when he could. But then another major life event happened for me. Sophomore year, at Christmas break, I go home and my mom said, I'm getting remarried. You're going to Caledonia next week. I'm like, what? Where's that? Like, I know 5 blocks of Easttown. Like, that's pretty much all I know. I tried to look at it with a positive attitude. She's getting remarried. My new stepdad has a decent job. We might be leaving this poor life from Easttown. So I tried to have a good attitude about it. I got a job when I was 14 at Sam's Joint in Caledonia, which is no longer there. After a week or so, I don't know what tests I passed or if they thought I was cool, but they're like, you got to go to the walk-in cooler and clean some tubs. Open up the walk-in cooler, and all the waitresses and chefs are in there passing a blunt around. And I was the youngest one by far and probably the only one working there who didn't have a criminal record. That was my first time being introduced to drugs. It also was my first job, and I learned that if you work, you make money, and that started at 14. Just more negative exposure for me. Even though I thought the move to Caledonia might be good, I wasn't getting along with my stepdad. He was a drunk, he was a dick, he wasn't a good guy, so we weren't getting along. I also found his pornography collection at age 15, and that became a secret vice and addiction for me. At some point, I was kicked out of the house within the first year. My grandparents took me in, but my mom knew that I had it really good there, so she convinced them to kick me out also. Just more rejection for me to deal with. At that time, my dad was back around, so I had to live with him, and my mom thought it wouldn't be good, like it wouldn't be easy for me to live with him, so that's why she did that. So I was trying to navigate life the best I could, trying to go to school. I actually was playing sports, but then dealing with all this other stuff, not really have a house to live at. Back to the Ogle temper, I was at a football game and a kid touched me, and I guess I have issues with people touching me. I punched them and I got arrested, I got sued. Just more experiences for me. One of 2 experiences where I would say I let out the Ogle temper, and both times I got arrested. Back to understanding, wow, that's in my blood, that's in my family, that's something that has to stop, right? You can keep it going, but if you learn about it and you stop it, then you can end that curse or that bad thing that's maybe been passed on to you. I moved back to my mom's house at some point. I'm not going to go into this full story, but an incident happened there, and my mom and stepdad were fighting. I went out to break it up. They yelled at me. Apparently they're fighting over me. She was roughed up by him, and I was going to take her to the hospital the next day, and she promised me she'd never go back there, and she did, and I moved out. I haven't really been back there since, so luckily I had some really good families that took me in my senior year and let me live with them while I finished high school. Navigating life the best I could, trying to be a normal high schooler and kid, finishing school, basically working full-time in high school, and I was trying to live a good life, but I was also drinking, smoking pot, watching porn, still going to church. I was confused. My moral compass was off. I've always looked at it and said life's a set of railroad tracks. You've got the world on the left, and crap you're probably not supposed to be doing, and you've got a good, godly, moral life on the right, and I walked down the middle, and I'd spend both times on each side of the tracks. And I think that describes a big chunk of my life. We'll end my childhood with that. There's probably a lot more, but that's just some of the stuff I had to go through and was exposed to. So after high school, maybe like age 17 to 21, I was trying to survive. I didn't go to college because I had no one telling me that I had to. So I just started working. Fortunate to start a little odd jobs company out of high school, power washing decks, painting fences, stuff like that. Always working at a restaurant. Very fortunate to get a job at Cygnus, which was the top floor of the Amway. One of the nicest restaurants back in the day, and I was young and making a lot of money, and I was also the youngest waiter by 10 years probably. So when it was time to be done with work and go to Z's with the older people and you have $400 cash in your pocket, you go to the bar. Luckily I was tall and they thought I was 21, I guess, right? So I was down there drinking and making money and trying to figure out life and working 70 to 90 hours a week, just existing, no plans, no goals, no roadmap to follow. Blowing money because I could, because I didn't understand I had the curse of poverty on my life and that I was making impoverished decisions because no one taught me that or taught me about money. Always working 2 jobs. Sometimes I was dealing drugs, still messing around with those nasty little vices that I had. Got diagnosed with ADD, not the H, I don't have the hyper, but I had the ADD. Moving around, trying to figure out where to live, struggling with finances. At age 21 though, I think I woke up feeling a little bit unfulfilled. Something just felt off. I was empty inside, I was lonely, frustrated, not always motivated. And I decided, I gotta get serious about my faith. I ended up going to get baptized. If you're not a believer or not from church, it's something that happens when you're part of a church and faith, and usually happens as an infant. For some reason, my parents didn't do that, but I was excited to do that when I was 21 and make that choice. To me, that was kind of taking a stand, like I'm gonna be real about this and I'm gonna try to live a good life. However, I still struggled after that. I still struggled going all in on my faith and staying on the right side of the tracks. I always prayed for God to renew my conscience, but I was still kind of living a double life. When I had that painting job, I went back to Sam's Joint, which is kind of funny, where it all started when I was 14. I was sitting at the bar, eating lunch, and I'm social, so I started talking to the guy next to me, and he was a real estate broker. So the light bulb went off, why paint houses when you can sell them? So I got my real estate license when I was 21. Unfortunately, that's also when Texas Hold'em poker became popular, and man, did that fit my addictive personality. I probably lost 100 grand. I didn't care because I just figured if you need money, you just work and you make more money, right? You blow it and then you go work harder and you make more money. Like, I didn't really know at the time, but that wasn't good. Just another vice to add to my bag of vices. Still tried to go to church once in a while, struggling with rejection, concentration, the future, finances. At some point, I started dating a girl. It was serious. Probably at the 2.5 year mark, I had a feeling that she wasn't the right one, but we were pretty intertwined. For someone who's not close with their family, like, you need that relationship. You need the love that comes from that. So I didn't want to end it, even though the little voice inside me was telling me to. I did end up ending it, and it sucked, and it was uncomfortable, and it emotionally was bad. So I got right back together with her. Dated another 2.5 years, and honestly, I was supposed to marry her. That's what happens when you meet a girl at Calvin College. I didn't go to Calvin, by the way. There's a few people who think I did. I slept in the dorms, ate at the cafeteria. I dated girls from there. I just didn't pay tuition. So I had the Calvin house in Easttown that maybe you came to a party at, but I wasn't enrolled. But if you did go to Calvin and meet a girl, you usually marry her. That's just kind of the story around here. So what I learned from that whole experience, so that little voice telling me that it wasn't right, that was God. And I learned God's voice in that moment, because when I went to break up with her at 5 years, God doesn't take things off your to-do list. When he gives you something to do, you still have to do it. If you do it the first time, it'll be easy. It'll go smooth because he set that up. You have to do it later, 5 years later, it's hard. It's emotional. He still wants you to do it. It's just not going to be as easy. But I'm glad that happened, because that was me really learning God's voice in my life. Shortly after that, another big event happened. I met a new girl. I think I was 24 then, owned my own home, making good money, trying to get on the right path for life. I was maturing. But I met a new girl, and I got her pregnant within a couple weeks of meeting her. Now I'm forced with a big decision. I was scared. I was nervous. Seems to be par for the course for my life, though. I remember my pastor telling me, Ryan, this was not in God's order, but it was in his plan for your life. This isn't how God really wants things to go, but for you, it's part of his plan for your life. You're always trying to do things on your own. You're always making your own decisions. Here you go. Here's a big one. What are you going to do? You're going to step up to the plate? You're going to take care of this son? What are you going to do? I can say today I'm about to celebrate 19 years of marriage. My oldest son, who came from that, is an amazing young man. He did really well in school. He was leading Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He's found success in sports, life, school. Like, what a blessing out of my mistake he came. And it's also worth mentioning, I have another incredible son who's here. He's awesome. My daughter, man, did God know that I needed a daughter. To be able to have a daughter to hug you and love on you, like, that's just something special. 3 beautiful, amazing, healthy children. I have a very beautiful, loving, caring wife. All of that came out of me maybe making some bad decisions. So it was another turning point for me. I knew God's voice. I knew his call on my life. And here I am, getting married, not really young. I felt okay with it because I just came out of a 5-year relationship that was basically a marriage, but it wasn't easy. We had our struggles, especially since we didn't have a long history. I still secretly, though, battled with porn and lust and drinking and other vices and gambling and swearing, and now I have someone I have to be accountable to. But I knew God. I knew what he had done for me. I knew where he took me out of, and most importantly, I chose him and was going to live the best life that I could and make it to heaven one day. I was trying to be a good Christian man, father. Getting my now wife pregnant and having my son is what kicked me in the butt. It was time to mature and grow up, and I made some big changes to my life then. 2008, I opened my own real estate brokerage when the market was crashing, and everybody told me I was crazy. Why would you open a real estate brokerage when the market's crashing? God's direct word to me was, give him the glory, give him the credit, and he'll make you wildly successful. Stand here 24 years later, still getting lots of deals and have done very well. My family's been blessed from real estate. And I give God the glory and the credit for that. I've been blessed with just lots of business, lots of opportunities. I try to serve people by helping them with their needs. Not what can I get paid or how can, they help me, but how can I help them? What's right? Make the right decision. Treat people great and watch God continue to bring you more deals. There's a Bible verse I like to recite often. It's an all-star verse, Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. That's a verse I live by. That's a verse I've seen play out in my life. When I look back on things, I realize whenever Ryan tried to do something on his own or make his own decision, it didn't turn out well. I've shared some of those stories where it didn't turn out well, and it's happened a lot. So I probably didn't notice that in real time. And it's tough. I like to play the victim and have a victim mindset sometimes, that it's other people's fault, not mine. Easy to do since I was the victim at different times in my life. But God was looking for my obedience and my discipline to help bless me just in the natural and spiritually. So despite my shortcomings, I've been very blessed in the last 20 years. I've experienced a lot of life. I have a motto that I try to live by. Be a good steward of the resources that God has blessed you with. Those resources being time, talent, and money. If you got a talent, you're a good speaker, go speak. You need to do that, right? You're good in something else, you have to do more of that. You've been blessed with a lot of money, use it for good. You have to be a good resource of those gifts that God's given you. Don't squander the gifts that God's given you. I've enjoyed the privilege of mentoring people, counseling people, praying with people, giving money to who needs it. It's been incredible when I've asked God to use me. The random encounters that I have where I can bless somebody with money or pray with them or help them out. I've also been blessed to travel all over and hunt and fish. Went to Caledonia halfway through my sophomore year. 2 weeks, they rednecked me really quick. I didn't grow up hunting, fishing, or golfing. I'm a member here. I still can't say I'm a good golfer, but I'm trying. I don't know how they let me in because they obviously don't know where I came from. But I've had a lot of fun in life. I've been very blessed to do a lot of fun stuff and have a lot of great experiences and travel and being out in nature, hunting, fishing, climbing mountains, just gets me spiritually rejuvenated. But it's also opened up my horizons, right? It's not just those 8 blocks that I grew up in. There's much more. 2019, God had more plans, and for sake of time, I won't go too deep into it, but I basically closed my construction company, sold my property management company, kicked everybody off my real estate team, and then moved my real estate brokerage to a national franchise. Got rid of everything I had built. But bigger isn't always better. I wasn't happy doing it. I had a lot of stress. I got sick quite a few times being a business owner. I was running around with my head cut off. And transformation starts within. You can't give somebody something you don't have. If my marriage isn't in order, if my health isn't in order, if my finances aren't really in order, I'm going to sit here and pretend and try to tell all these staff that work for me what to do and how to do it. So I had to do some work on myself. So I'm back to Ryan, the realtor, and I'm loving it. 2024 is the best year I've ever had in real estate. Closed more deals than I ever have. So God had a plan. There's a lot more to that story and a lot that happened with that, everything kind of coming down. But it was a really good thing. I've learned that the blessings in the obedience. You got to listen to that little voice in your head, your gut. You got to do what you're supposed to, and then that blessing comes. Part of even getting ready for this speech, I had to gut check myself. If someone from Golf League here came to this, are they going to say, that's not the Ryan I know. He's out there drinking and swearing on hole 5, right? And I had to look at myself and analyze a little bit. Is there some areas I need to clean up? There's some areas I need to get a little bit better at. So I'm thankful that happened. It was cool to find out that my dad's aunt had been praying for me before I ever was. I found out, he's from a big Italian Roman Catholic family and 10 siblings, but one of the aunts was praying for his future kids when he was a kid. So to hear that, wow, God had a plan all along. No wonder I made it through. I had a lot of chances to choose the wrong path, a lot of forks in the road. Thankful for all the amazing teachers who prayed for me, the families that took me in. God was always there for me. Didn't always realize it, but today, successful real estate career, great family. I've been able to make a lot of money, give money, be a community leader, speak at events, mentor kids. Lots of fun stuff. On paper, like I said, I can't complain. I have it good. I still walk on the right side of the tracks, but find out sometimes I'm tempted to hop over to the left or maybe walk in the middle because I feel like I can get away with it. So something I still got to work on. I think that's important to know. Come to know God and give your life to Him. Doesn't mean it's just all easy street and everything's all wonderful moving forward. You're still going to struggle. What does it look like to be a Christian businessman? You're blessed with money and resources, I think, when you go all in with God. I know the guy who knows everybody. I always say that. I'm not a great realtor. I quit doing client events, birthday cards, any of that stuff. Yet every week God puts my name on somebody's heart to wake up and use me. I'm closing more deals than I ever have this year. So I know the guy who knows everybody. That's a benefit of kind of going all in on my faith and being unapologetic about it. I asked God to use me. I go down to my buildings and rental property on Bridge Street one day. I didn't even want to go. I think we just got home from a trip. But something in me said, I got to go down there and clean up that yard because I got a notice from the city. They're going to fine me for tall grass, trash, whatever it is. There's a guy sleeping on the porch. I have these houses vacant because I'm going to tear them down, do a development soon. I've come across these bums before, homeless people, and usually I go back to my roots, a little East Town kid, and have an attitude and scare them, and they never come back. God kept telling me to talk to him. I was like, I don't want to deal with this today. I'm just going to cut the lawn, go home. Loaded up my truck, was going to leave, and he just kept impressing me. You got to go talk to that guy. Long story short, I go talk to him. His name's Mario. Dude stood up. He was like as big as me. He looked like a college linebacker. He was ripped, nice white pearly teeth. I was like, man, he didn't look like a homeless guy. Had a story. He went to jail for something, got out. His girlfriend didn't take him back, had nowhere to live. He's from San Diego. That was his first night sleeping on my porch. I went through a series of questions with him. What's your vice, man? Why are you here? How did you get here? How do I get out of this, right? He's like, if I could get a bus pass, I can go to this job fair. I was like, what's a bus pass cost? $50. Okay, is that all you need? You need anything else? He's like, if you gave me $100, I'll stand up and pray with you. I was like, I'll pay $100 for prayer. This guy knew the Bible better than I did. The way he prayed over me, like I felt it. He spoke some true words. Like God impacted me that day for helping him. Ended up giving him whatever I had in my pocket, a couple $100, and off he went. I hope he does well. I prayed for him. He prayed for me. I have experiences like that every week just because I asked God to use me, right? I'm going to be a good steward of the resources that I have. I could give you story after story like that. Use them. Use the gifts that you have. Come from curiosity. Be genuine. Be authentic. Be the answer to somebody's prayer. We're so blessed. We have more than we know. And whatever you're dealing with, I'm about to wrap it up, Chuck. Whatever you're dealing with, someone has it worse than you. Like they really do. That's what I've learned. So it sucks that we have to go through crap, but we do. So understand that generational curses are real. Stop the vices you have. I'm not going to make people raise their hands or anything, but probably 75% of men are tempted with pornography or dealing with it. Quit it. If you're over drinking, gambling, addictions you have anger, rejection, stop it. You need to, because you aren't going to reach your full potential if you don't. You won't reach those plans that are there for you, and you don't want to pass that on to your children or mess up people's lives around you. So I thank the Lord that the Ogle temper and the curse of poverty has been broken over my life, and I don't think it will be passed on to my children because I trusted God. The world needs you. Men are struggling today. We're lacking patriarchs. Whether you're raised in the church or not, a lot of people can think of an older man in their life who just had it together. He was good. He was solid. He was consistent. We're losing them, but we're the next generation of those patriarchs. But you got to get your crap together to do it. The beauty is, it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Like, tomorrow's a new day. I'm just thankful God woke me up today. I hope he wakes me up tomorrow. As I mentioned, I never even wanted to live really this long. So you're not promised tomorrow. You can't take it all with you. Those are things to think about. And I know there's people in this room, you get your stuff together, like you can be that family that takes Ryan Ogle in when his parents kick him out. You can be that grandfather who helps a grandchild and gives him one piece of consistent good in his life. You could donate the money so Ryan Ogle could go to the Grand Rapids Christian schools and actually have a chance at making it. I know the majority of the kids in my neighborhood didn't make it. I know one was murdered. I know one did the murder, not murdered him, but is in jail for murder. Like, I made it. And I had a lot of breaks that happened, and we have the ability to be that for somebody. So I stand here today to confidently tell you God is good. God loves you. God wants the best for you. Don't live a life of what ifs, would have, could have, should have. Become the best version of who God designed you to be. It's never too late. Comparison is the thief of joy. Don't worry about what anyone else thinks. Don't worry about anything you've done. Just get on the right side of the railroad tracks. Don't be ashamed of anything. You can start over tomorrow. There's forgiveness available to you today. You can start over tomorrow. You're not promised tomorrow, so maybe start over today. Be encouraged. Thank you for listening. Anyone has questions or follow-up, I'll go to coffee with anybody. I'm an open book. And I want to quick pray, Chuck, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. If you don't mind, bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, in the name of your Son Jesus, I come to you. Thank you for choosing me and each and every person in this room to wake up and have the gift of life today. We're blessed for that alone. You chose us. Help us not to squander that blessing. Help us to be able to become the best versions of who you designed us to be. And if you don't know God or don't have a relationship and are curious, ask him to reveal himself to you, or speak to someone in the room who maybe does. We're all in this together. I pray that we can all be incredible influences to those around us, that we can get the stuff fixed in our lives. But I just thank you for all the blessings you've given us, dear Lord. We have it so good. We're blessed with so much, even when we think we aren't. Thank you for taking me from where I came from. Thank you for all that you've blessed me with and given me the ability and opportunity to share my story. Amen.